Welcome to the Dolmelynllyn estate. This estate was given to the National Trust in 1936 and comprises of 2 farms, 2 hotels, 15 cottages and a village hall, and also a heck of a lot of trees and woodlands. In this film I'm going to show you the woodlands throughout the 4 seasons and the management work that we do. Today we're going to have a look at spring. Now this is my favourite time of year. The woodlands are alive, the sound of birdsong, the redstarts and the pied flycatchers have arrived. Everything's so fresh and new, it's fantastic. Right, we've introduced some Highland cattle into our woodlands. We've got 3 in total and they're here to graze the understory. These woodlands have been closed off from grazing for the last couple of decades really, which has resulted in the ground flora becoming really brambly. We've also done a lot of felling work over the last 2 winters. So we've got a lot of saplings growing from the cut stumps and also some saplings growing from the ground as well. So these cattle are designed to keep them in check and hopefully clear the understory for us. Now this woodland is particularly good for its lichen interest, and that's the reason here really that why these Highland cattle are in here to get rid of the brambles and also the saplings to try and get a bit more light onto the trunks of the trees, and hopefully the lichens will flourish. The thinning work that we've done over the past 2 winters has resulted in a lot more light coming onto the ground, which means that the ransoms or wild garlic that you see here has increased considerably. So in the spring we tend to take a bit of time really in maintaining the network of paths we have on the estate, and this is work that we've done recently with a college group. Also strimming work is a big chunk of work at this time of year and through into the summer, where we trim all the paths and car parks. So each spring really we do a sweep of the estate and to try and eradicate the rhododendron ponticum. It's a plant that's really invasive and it's a big problem in Snowdonia. So before the bracken comes up in end of May, we usually do a sweep of the whole estate and then spray this plant to kill it. Here we are where we've done some restoration work to the old wall garden here. It was overgrown with mature trees and scrub, and we've restored it back to its prior use of during Victorian times of being an orchard. We've planted 21 fruit trees from apple, pear, plum and damson. Hi, welcome to my office. It is now midsummer and doing a little bit of office work this morning now while it's wet. And what I'm doing is going through the management plan for the Dolmelynllyn estate, and it's all been agreed by the Trust and NRW, and looking at the woodland prescriptions within the plan. So drawing out a list of work that we're going to be doing next winter in the woods, and because our woodlands are all designated National Nature Reserve, SSSI, Special Area Conservation, we have to get formal NRW consent before we can undertake the work. Right, that's enough of the computer work for this morning. We've got a lot of work to do outside, so I think we'll better go and crack on. Right, we're up on the slopes of Cefn Coch now, above the sort of normal tree line of the estate. And we're trying to encourage trees to grow a bit further up the slopes, up into the Frith and towards the mountain. We've fenced out a few enclosures with environmental schemes over the last 10 years, and we've planted with oak, rowan and hawthorn. And well, this time of year now, midsummer, you know, the bracken is really thick here, so we have to come and weed the trees, take out the bracken. Occasionally in the summer months we have a few trees and branches come down due to the sheer weight of the leaves that are on them at this time of year, and especially after a period of heavy rainfall and wind, sometimes we have them down across the path, and they'll need clearing. So this tree here will be clearing and leaving whatever falls outside the path. Will leave as dead wood on the ground for the invertebrates. But in general, woodland work is kept to the minimum at this time of year, kept till the autumn until the nesting birds have left, and also there's less people about walking. And right, occasionally in the summer months, when we got the need for fencing materials, we'll make use of wind-blown oak and come into the woods and split it using the traditional method of using wedges, axe and sledgehammers. And these stakes that we produce, because they've been split rather than sawn, they do, especially if they're seasoned properly, they should last a lot longer than the softwood stakes that we can buy. So it's well worth doing. So the idea is, when we're splitting oak stakes, is to always start from the narrowest end, the top end of the log. Once we've cross-cutted these now into 6 foot lengths, so that's the length of a fencing stake. I always start from the narrow end, because that determines how much stakes you get out of a log. So what we're going to do is drive this axe in, and always try and look for a natural crack in the log, and there is a slight crack there, but not a lot. But sometimes with Welsh oak you do get shake in the tree, which is a natural crack, or cracks where the tree's been moving in the wind. So that's a good place to start driving your axe in. So this is well, not the finished article, but the rough form of a stake, and we'll take this back to our yard then and run it on the saw bench, just to trim the sapwood off and put a point on them and trim any fibres, so that they're a bit easier and nicer to handle. And then they go indoors then, and for a couple of years to season, and then we'll use them on the estate then for our fencing jobs. Right, these Highland cattle, they've been in Coed Fluid here now since late March, and it's early August now, and I think they've done a really good job at tackling the bramble problem that we had and the saplings. So but now it's time to move them on to a fresher part of the woodland, into another compartment, and so we're moving them today. And then here they are now at their new home for the next 3 or 4 months until the autumn, where they'll hopefully get the bramble and the sapling issue under control here as well. The autumn is a time of year that we spend a bit of time really clearing back vegetation that have grown over the summer months. A lot of cutting back hedges and verges, and recently we've been cutting low branches around the fields here at Dolmelynllyn, and we've carried them to this the site here, to the village bonfire, which we make every year. This is the time of year that I undertake dangerous tree surveys of the estate, and what that means is I have a look at the trees on the estate for any defects, fruiting bodies, hanging branches or the like, and but most of the focus of the tree survey really is carried out on the A470, because that's a busy main road, around houses and buildings, and also car parks and lay-bys, where there's a higher chance of a tree or a branch hitting somebody or something. So back in the summer we spent a couple of days up in Hafod splitting oak fencing stakes in the traditional manner, using wedges and axes. In the last couple of days we've brought a couple of loads of these stakes down to the yard. So today we're running them through the saw bench. First of all, we take all the sap off the sides of the stake, and then we put a really good point on the end. Now here's a pretty good example of an oak fence post. It's all hardwood rather than, there's no sap on it, so it's going to last longer. I've trimmed the corners off so that they're easier to carry on your shoulder if you have to carry them out to site. And also there's a smooth area here to staple your netting onto. Now we have fences here on the Dolmelynllyn estate that have been fenced using these traditional oak stakes, and they've lasted 50 or 60 years, so let's hope this one does the same. Well, here we have a gang of working holiday volunteers. There's a dozen of them from all over the world, and they've come to give us a hand doing some thinning work in this part of the woodland that had become overgrown. If you fancy give us a hand sometime, you're more than welcome to join us. So here's a woodland that we've done a bit of thinning work in the last few days. And what we've done is selected oak and ash as the trees to be retained, and chosen the trees of best form as well, and taken everything else out. So with a bit more light and a bit more room now, these trees should grow into good specimens. In the near future we're going to have an excavator in to move the trunks down to roadside, and the machine can carry them out and meander in between the standing trees without damaging the trunks. And while the machine is here, the machine can scrape up the brash and the branches into habitat piles. It's winter now. Today we're at Dolmelynllyn gold mine. This is where ore would have been carted down the hillside and would have been crushed here to produce gold. The mines were working in around 1840 and produced, out of 3,000 tonnes of ore, 1,300 ounces of gold. Since the mines closed around that time, trees have grown wild and have grown out of the old walls of the buildings and the structures, and are damaging the heritage of the site. So what we're doing today is cutting down the trees that are growing out of the structures to help preserve the heritage of the site. We have stone walls around most of our woodland boundaries here at Dolmelynllyn, and occasionally we have a gap or two appearing in these walls, and of course we have to go then and rebuild these walls to prevent sheep and cows from the neighbouring farmland from going into our woodlands. We do rebuild smaller gaps ourselves, but when we've got longer stretches such as this one, we get contractors in to rebuild them for us. And it's all about getting a stock-proof boundary really along our woodland edges. We make use of our estate timber by bringing it back to the yard here, and we get a mobile saw in to convert the timber into useful pieces that we can use on the estate. Here we are pre-building the bridge in the workshop, which we'll be then taking it out and constructing on site. And because it's oak, it should last a very long time. Each winter we plant a number of trees on the estate, and here we have quite a big gap in the canopy, so there's plenty of light and room for this tree to grow. So here's an area that we've been thinning this winter. We've selected the best quality trees to give them a bit more light, and hopefully they'll become much better trees. The ones down the bottom there were leaning towards the building, so were quite tricky to fell in the usual way. So we've had to put a winch onto them to bring them down safely. Well, spring is just around the corner and will be a start of a brand new year for our woodlands here at Dolmelynllyn. I hope you'll be able to see the variety of work that goes into maintaining our woodlands and to keep them in the condition that they're in. But do please come and have a look for yourself. I think they really are fantastic.